Hello, this is Jamie Lammers. I actually might be known by a lot of you as James Lammers, but that was back at a prior time in a prior life. I am a transgender individual, transgender woman. I had transitioned right around the time that I last knew some of you. Around the 2016 is when I formally came out and started my transition. I am a gender specialist as a licensed professional counselor, and I am a certified gender diversity transgender trainer, consultant, instructor, also a adjunct professor of multiculturalism at Lakeland University for graduate studies in multiculturalism. And I wanted to offer up my trainings and my services to some individuals that I really respect and I would like to get more knowledgeable, namely the law enforcement. I worked with some of you, like I said, I have a lot of respect for you, and I want to help you understand better individuals like myself and others of LGBTQ culture, even just diversity in general would be also an aim. So I'm going to start by just introducing the idea of gender to you. These will be a series of trainings, so this is part one. This is to catch us up from the fifth grade biology that most of us still are stuck in to get us more to an adult or college level of understanding with gender, so we can get away from that elementary school understanding. So there's three places in gender that we are thinking about. There is biological sex, there is a sex assigned at birth, and then there is the gender. That is the end product why I'm going into all this. But I feel like we have to go through these other ones first, the biological sex and sex assigned at birth, before we get to gender, to help you understand what we're talking about gender. So what are these things? Biological sex. Biological sex, it really defines what our bodies are in terms of chromosomally, hormonally, internal genitalia, external genitalia, what gonads we have, what our hormones not only do we naturally produce, but also react to. Sex assigned at birth, this is talking about the legal sex that we are in our society. It is what sex is assigned to us when we were born. And then it is the gender, which defines our role in society, our caste in our society, what obligations and expectations are expected of us, what social norms are dictated for us, and how we have a relationship with other people. So these are three separate things that we have to be able to distinguish individually and then see how they are in relation to each other in order for true basic understanding of gender to actually come about. So starting out with biological sex, quiz time. Yes, I know I can't see any of you, but that is okay. I know there's probably some of you there making lots of jokes, probably some rolling your eyes, there's some days daydreaming, all those fun things. But I'm hoping that you'll go along with it anyways and act as if I'm there. The question I have is, how many medically recognized sexes, biological sexes, are there? Now, this is kind of interesting to think about because when we go to the doctor, they usually only have male and female to choose from on a lot of these forms. But the funny thing is that all there is for medically recognized sexes? Well, the answer is there is, depending on how you organize them, roughly 24 to hundreds of them. This is because there's a classification called disorders of sexual development that is causes a lot of variations that are not male or female, at least in the classic sense. And there's almost every single adaptation that you can think. A person can have XX chromosomes and be a fully functional male individual, or XY chromosomes and be a fully functional female individual. There is the capability of someone producing testosterone in their body, but actually becoming a female individual, or a person to have XXY chromosomes and extra X chromosomes, so they're kind of partial female, partial male, or XYY or XXX. There is the ability to develop both gonads, both genitalia, what some people in the old days called true hermaphrodites and stuff like that. So there's a lot of different variations, as this slide says. So let's just take a bounce off of that. How many legal sexes are there? That's probably more up your alley, right? How many legal sexes? Well, in Wisconsin, there's 2. But there is 2 to 3 depending on where you are. 19 states have 3 legal sexes. There is 17 countries that have 3 legal sexes. This number is growing. A couple of them got added just this last year. So this is something we need to remember and we need to work towards and think about, because the understanding that there is more than just the 2 male and female biological sexes is very important. There are 3 main types. That is male individuals, which have their bodies chromosomally, hormonally, gonad, genitalia-wise, pretty much mainly just male in all those things, in what you would consider classical male. Same with the classical female. But then there's the intersex individuals. And to know how many intersex individuals there are, just look around for how many redheads there are. About 1.5 to 2% of the population are redheaded, just like that same number is roughly how many intersex individuals we have running around on this planet. So you want to see how many intersex people are in the world, see how many redheads there are in the world. So an intersex person is just someone who has one of those disorders of sexual development that causes them to have ambiguous biological sex of male, female, or some other variation thereof. So the funny thing is that most people who are intersex don't know they're intersex. And that means that you may be one of those people. Unless you did a chromosomal test, unless you tested your chromosomes, unless you tested your naturally producing hormones or naturally react to hormones, unless you had a doctor probing all the different parts of your body on 20 Ways to Sunday, which most of us have not, we won't know we're intersex. Most people who are intersex usually find out when they start getting testing for other reasons, like for fertility or for surgery reasons, or that they are getting something else done. It's the funny thing is that all of this is done because every single one of our bodies has the capability of being either sex or both sex. Our bodies actually start out neutral when it gets developed, and usually it's the hormonal baths that occur in utero that develop us, which of course chromosomes react, make the hormones go a certain way, but that's not a guarantee. So what is this whole sex assigned at birth thing? Well, the official method for sex markers that is done in our society is that when the doctor or nurse or whoever is in the birthing room picks you up after you come out of your mother, that they look at you, look at what's between your legs and say, it looks like a male, looks like a female, and that's what they stamp you as. Funny thing is that we already know that that's not the only ways that biological sex works. External genitalia doesn't actually include the internal genitalia, the gonads that you're using, the hormones that are going through your systems, the chromosomes that your body is made out of. Nope, it's just the external genitalia usually. And the funny thing is that because they only have 2 boxes to check, that the medical practice for the longest time, and even happens nowadays still a little bit, is this forceful boxing type thing, where if the external genitalia are not looking right, that there's an intersex person who shows visually on the external genitalia, they will usually do a modification. Up until the 90s, they were doing it even without telling the parents or without giving the parents a choice even. That they would just do it and there you go. I'm actually a little wondering myself if I might be intersex, because I had a triple hernia surgery and I had my belly button removed when I was at birth for medical reasons supposedly, but I always questioned why so much was needing to be done. But of course I will never know because those records are broken or destroyed. So once this official method is done, this very scientific method of just looking at what you have between your legs, then that is very difficult to change once that is done, which is kind of sad. We are wanting to be able to make a change to this, because what if they were wrong? Especially since they've been altering people to make them look, in quotes, right, forceful boxing, So now that we've seen this idea of sex assigned at birth and the biological sex, and how our wonderful system is so unique and structured in having this binary system that is not binary, having this legal system that is oh so legal, casual glance and all that it is. We will move on to now gender. Gender, though, it's separate from sex because it is a social construct that every society has that dictates how that society treats and interacts with a person, along with what they expect from that person. So, why is gender separated from sex? Well, there is a very good reason for that because we do not interact with another person's biological sex or their sex assigned at birth except for very specific things. These are not the way we deal with people on modern lifestyle. It all how we interact with each other, how we box each other, how we expect social constructs, the social constructs to be followed within each of us is we look at our gender. And you want proof that we look at our gender? And this is the proof. We do not look at sex assigned at birth because how many of you actually look at a person's birth certificate to find out what their sex assigned at birth is in order to figure out how you want to interact with that person? And I say birth certificate because remember, at DMV, I could write a letter as a therapist and give it to somebody, and they can go and get their DMV M change to F or F change to M, and or a medical doctor can as well. And so it is not technically their legal gender or legal biological sex or legal sex assigned at birth, but it can be done. In Wisconsin, each state is different, of course. And so it's the birth certificate that is the legal sex, per se, of a person. And that is never checked by almost anyone who isn't doing some official documentation. And then the proof of why do we not deal with biological sex? Well, this is what I like to refer to as how many of you now, I want people that actually raise their hands with this one. How many of you actually do what I like to call crocodile Dundeeing somebody before you interact with them? If anybody remembers the movie Crocodile Dundee, he had met a lady in the bar who he was told was a biological man, and so he had grabbed this lady's crotch to find out before he further interacted with her. And later on in the movie, when he saw an ambiguously female individual, he had grabbed her by the crotch as well before he started interacting with her, just to check to make sure that she was a biological female. So this is what I like to refer to as crocodile Dundeeing someone. How many of you actually do that? Please raise your hands. And now everybody else, look around and see who are the most likely individuals to have sexual assault charges put against them if they have their hands raised. Because that is what it is. It is sexual assault for us to go around crocodile Dundeeing people in order to figure out how we want to interact with them. We don't interact with them by their biological sex. It's by their gender. Mainly by their gender expression. The gender expression is the external cues given out to others and to ourselves to achieve one or more of the following reasons. And that is either to indicate how I desire to be treated by others. I am presenting female. I am a transgender woman, which means that I wear women's clothes. I have a woman's body, and stuff like that. That's so that I can indicate to others that I want to be treated as a woman. It also is to, number two, make myself comfortable within my own personal life structure. I am 1,000 times more happy with this life structure than I was with the one before. I was actually very depressed. I had dozens of medical health issues that all went away after I switched, but I did get a lot of more social problems because society is not very happy with people who switch teams. But also somebody might do it for number three, to fit in better with a particular gender within that society because they want to go what some people refer in stealth or to be able to pass. This is the terms for it. I usually don't try for that one, but others do. And remember, there are more than two sexes, both sex assigned at birth and for biological sex, so there are more than two genders. That's important to remember. Now, the big one that we all talk about, gender identity. Gender identity is the gender role within the society that an individual feels most comfortable executing, has the easiest time following, does not have to think hard or fake it to follow, and the one that they have the most euphoria while executing. So we always hear about gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria tells us that something is wrong, but gender euphoria is actually what teaches us what is right. So we are actually usually looking for euphoria when we're trying to help someone find their gender identity. And this is kind of one of the things I do as a gender specialist, is try to help people figure out what their gender identity is, which can be different from the expression. They figure out what their gender identity is, then they can figure out how they want to express it, and if they want to compromise the expression between what society expects of them or what they feel is most natural. But these are the things. The easiest way to think of it is gender identity is totally inside the head. You cannot see, feel, touch, hear, taste someone's gender identity. Everything you can see, feel, touch, taste is either their gender expression or their biological sex. And then the sex signed at birth is not something we can necessarily touch unless we're looking at documents. So, and just like biological sex, remember, gender identity has dozens to hundreds of variations, possibly more. And I will talk about more of those types of things and other things on later trainings to follow. So remember, tell your captains, tell individuals to get to me any questions you may have. I'm also available to reach out individually if people have individual questions to have, but I will continue to send more short trainings to help you teach help me teach you short pieces of this information in the future. And what trainings I teach you would be dictated also partially by what questions you have. So please let me know anything you may have. Have a good day.